Welcome to today's lesson, everybody. Today we're doing advanced phrasal verbs and idioms, and it's lesson number 19. I take these all from a white book called Advanced Phrasal Verbs and Idioms, and you can find it if you look for it on Amazon or Google, and it's by Oxford University Press. I've got my own book on phrasal verbs though, and you can buy this on my website. It's on skype-lessons.com, or you can find it on Amazon if you like a nice physical book. And so most of the phrasal verbs that we look at today, in fact all of them I think, are in that book. So if you do something off the cuff, this means you do something without preparation. It's improvised. And so if you perhaps you perform somewhere off the cuff, that would mean that it's a totally improvised performance. But yeah, you could maybe come up with some activities for your class. If you're a teacher, you could come up with those activities off the cuff. Cuff literally means here, by the way, this part of the clothing. But if you come up with some activities off the cuff, then it means you come up with them spontaneously without any kind of planning or preparation. So perhaps in the lesson you suddenly think of a good activity. You come up with that activity off the cuff. Okay, if you you very often hear this in negative sentences, but if you can't think of something off the top of your head, it means you can't think of it without checking it out first. Normally, somebody will ask you a question and you won't know the answer because you need to check something first to know the answer. And so you say, I'm sorry, I can't tell you. I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. Yeah, and so here, it doesn't really mean without preparation, but it means without checking first somewhere where you can find that information. So somebody might ask you, do you know the capital of Namibia? And you might say, I don't know off the top of my head. I need to go and look that up. But usually it's about something perhaps more, which you might know. Perhaps somebody says something like, I'm not sure. Do you know how many people live in your town? And you say, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. I'd have to check on Wikipedia. Yeah, something like that. So very often used in negative sentences, that one. Now, if an idea is off the wall or a plan is off the wall, then it's a crazy idea in some kind of way, or an eccentric idea, or an unusual idea. So if somebody is off the wall, they're a little bit crazy, but very often we use this for ideas or plans or suggestions, something like that. So this one means a little bit crazy. If you know your stuff, then you know about this particular topic. And if you don't know your stuff, then you don't know anything about this particular topic. So perhaps you know everything about, I don't know, the Disney films, and so you know your stuff concerning that particular topic. But yeah, this one really does mean just to be very knowledgeable in that area. Now you need to know this one. This is very common, to bear something in mind. It means to not forget about something, to keep something in mind. You might say, if you're going to Norway for a winter holiday, do bear in mind that it's quite cold there, so you'll need to take some warm clothing. Now, this is a very important one because for a lot of the students I teach, they make a mistake here. A lot of the students that I teach say to press on somebody, and it's totally wrong. We don't have any kind of expression to press on somebody. You can pressure somebody to do something, but more often you hear you can put pressure on somebody to do something. And this is when you try to force somebody to do something, using some kind of leverage, using some kind of advantage that you have. You put pressure on that person to do what you want. So for the Russian students out there, this is davit. I think that this is the way we say davit. It's not to press. It's a very common mistake. Okay, leak out is a phrasal verb, and yeah, I'm pretty sure it's in that book down there. Now, when news leaks out or information leaks out, This is usually secret information, information that shouldn't have been revealed. And so when secrets leak out, information leaks out, it's usually some kind of informer has gone to the press and has a whistleblower, we call them. Very often a whistleblower like Julian Assange or someone like that, Edward Snowden, will reveal some kind of secret, and so the secrets leak out. They leak out to the press. And I want to remind you that news can come out, news can get out, news can get round, news can spread round, and news goes round. So do try to remember these phrasal verbs in clusters, in groups. It will help you use them more effectively. It's certainly how I try to remember lots of different phrasal verbs, and it certainly helps me remember all the different, the whole variety of phrasal verbs that we have to choose from. So again, if you're interested, please buy that book, and that should help you. Now, if you do something off the record, usually you say something off the record, and it means unofficially. If you do something on the record, then you do something officially. So when you say something off the record, you're basically saying, don't tell anybody that I said this, or don't quote me on this, but off the record, unofficially, this is what I think. But don't tell anyone, because it's not what I officially want people to think that I said. If that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. So in crime dramas, you'll very often see the detective say, off the record, I think this happened. And he means unofficially, this is what I'm guessing happened, but I don't want to, I've got no proof, I've got no evidence, and so I don't want to say it on the record. When I get evidence, I'll make these claims on the record. Now, to blow something out of all proportion, and you can also blow something up out of all proportion, we sometimes throw that little preposition in there and it doesn't really change the meaning at all. It means to exaggerate, yeah? And very often it means to exaggerate it to a ridiculous degree. So when you can blow anything out of all proportion. Perhaps somebody has a tiny little argument with you and you get really angry about it. You get carried away. You go over the top. Is that on the board? Go over the top? Maybe it was in a previous lesson. I get muddled up now with all of these phrases. But you get carried away. You go over the top. You overreact. And you blow the argument out of all proportion. It was just a tiny little argument, but you make it into something really important. So it's very similar to make a mountain out of a molehill, if you know that idiom. And it's very similar to a storm in a teacup, if you know that idiom. Because when you blow something out of all proportion, you're making a mountain out of a molehill.